fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through. To hear those rainbows in my mind, when I think of you sometime, I once spent some time with you. Just the two of us, we can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us, building castles in the sky. Just the two of us, you and I, you and I. I see the crystal rain just fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through. To hear those rainbows in my mind, when I think of you sometime, I once spent some time with you. Just the two of us, we can make it if we try. Just the two of us. The two of us, building castles in the sky. Just the two of us, you and I, you and I.
Hello folks, welcome to the Besides the Norm podcast. My name is Stephen Duncan, aka Scuba. I'm sitting here with Craig, who I'll pass on to you in a wee while. I just want to give a shout out to Ori Karen for doing the kind of intro for us as well. There's a if you go to subfrictionrecords.bandcamp.com, you'll get the Sample Point album, which is just kind of loads of really nice instrumental work. Ori Karen's fantastic, so go and check that out. subfrictionrecords.bandcamp.com. Today we have Kay Morrison, an open vegetarian, and she also does other stuff as well. We will be talking, she's just kind of finishing a toffee penguin right now, which is pretty perfect. Yes, they do exist, so that's fine. Are you guys ready?
I've been ready.
Right, that's cool. I'll turn Craig on, and that was a weird...
We're related, that's illegal.
A few scary ideas there. I'm an open vegetarian. Openly vegetarian. Maybe,
You're not in the closet about your vegetarianism.
No, I'm right out.
That's it.
Admitting it.
Are you a pushy vegetarian?
I'm proud of it. I'm not crusading. I'm not one of those people who, shove it down other people's throats.
So you're not like an ex-smoker, like you kind of pass out leaflets and stuff like that. Just when you see people, like one of those.
No. Should I do that? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. No.
That's fine. Okay.
So all right, we're talking now.
Yeah.
So why vegetarian? Why not veganism? Why not take it to the next step?
That is an excellent question, and I think I might just be heading in that direction.
Right.
Because I've been vegetarian for quite a long time, really. We were talking about this earlier, obviously, in quite a learned way, and I mentioned that when I was very, very small, that is a child, I was nauseated, really sickened by the smell, the appearance, everything really to do with meat and the idea of eating it. I just thought it was a really bizarre idea and felt extremely uncomfortable about it because I could see these animals jumping about in the fields.
Yeah.
I lived in the countryside when I was small. And then to think that that same animal could be cut up and then maybe fried or stewed or something.
Stir fry or
and eaten.
fajitas or...
Yeah. Was something like that. Yes, you're hungry, I can tell. It is coming up to lunchtime. And so, as an innocent, relatively speaking, I really couldn't quite understand it, but I thought for a long time, for years actually, that it was an extremely unpleasant part of life that I just had to endure, and that probably everybody else felt the same as I did. But it was just something we had to do to stay alive, to survive. And then I was expected to pull my weight in the house, and I was supposed to be the cook. Believe it or not, some people would find that very hard to believe.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to cut up bits of meat. The noise it made, the smell, that everything about that whole experience was just stomach turning for me.
I'm with you on the smell.
Yeah. The smell, unbelievable. I think it's the smell more than anything else.
Have you ever opened a tub of meat paste? Oh,
not for a
smell
long time.
is
It knocks you
disgusting.
back. But do you manage to
Have you ever opened
deal
a ton
with
of
that?
meat paste?
Yeah, you just fight back your nausea and fight your
Pretty
way
much.
into the tub.
yeah. I mean, by that time, I'm generally almost fainting with hunger.
Yeah,
I mean, you need to be fainting with hunger to eat a meat paste sandwich.
I would agree with you there. Yes.
By that time, you can sort of... Oh,
Yeah.
you can fight your way through it.
Yes, I know.
Eventually.
Sometimes people say, but Kay, what would you do if you were in a situation where there was nothing else to eat? You know, you might die. Say you were on a desert island and there's only one other person. The other person dies or something. You know, what would you do? Well, it's so hypothetical that I don't think I'm going to waste a lot of time thinking about that. It's all a lot of ifs and you know, maybes and stuff. I'm trying to just deal with the reality. And at the moment, being a vegetarian is actually fairly easy. It's a lot easier than it used to be because we've got stuff on the market.
Yeah.
We've got the corn types. I'm not sure if that's the right pronunciation, but it's
I don't know.
something like
Something
that.
like that.
It's
Starts with a
corn
Q.
or
Remember
corn
we
or
had
something.
we had a guy called Samuel, and he's a vegan.
Yeah.
And he brought in a vegan chocolate spread.
Was it good?
It was
It's
weird.
very-
It was basically coconut. It was a main kind of
I
coconut
got a lot
flavour.
of hazelnut for it.
Well, it was a kind of, it was a weird thing.
It was
But
weird.
it was
Sort of
really
nutty,
dry.
but
Really,
it
really
was
dry.
dry. All right.
Yeah, it sucks the moisture out of your life. Like, it
It
really
needed
does.
a lot more fat in that.
Maybe.
Probably.
Not necessarily animal fat.
No, because you could do
Yeah,
something with that.
yeah. And there are other things. There's tofu, soya stuff, all kinds of pulses type dishes that you can have, that you
That's
can
it.
buy off the shelf.
I would have tofu.
So there's not so much anguish involved in cooking it.
What is
Yeah.
tofu? Is tofu a meat?
It's the soya, another soya one.
It's a soy lump. Basically, it's basically what it is.
Sometimes
'Cause
it
The
comes in
lump of
blocks.
soy.
Sometimes
Aye,
it comes
aye.
in bigger
It's-
lumps.
I've heard that it's like a really flavourless thing. I've heard like it's a really kind of flavourless
Funny,
thing.
That's
Yeah,
just
we
the
can
background
pause.
music. We had
Yeah.
really, really good introductory
Right,
music.
we'll put some music back on. And we'll come back.
So, yeah, that would be really good. I'll hum a wee bit.
And we're back. I thought we were going to get
So
a
this
phone
is
call
the-
answered there.
The amazingness of life.
Yes,
Yes.
it's perfect. I quite enjoy
Yes.
this.
This is-
One thing we've not actually undone is properly introduce Kay. As you said, she was a
give me a
vegetarian
great
and
big
she also
build
does
up, not
stuff.
as if that's all I am.
So, Kay the vegetarian.
Yes,
You're also councillor.
The vegetarian.
You're also the Depute Provost.
Provost of Fife.
In the previous podcast, we called you the Provost. So we'll need to fix that. You're not actually as important as we thought you were. So,
This is
Oh.
humiliating.
still the Deputy Provost. That's still pretty good. I think that's pretty
It
good.
is. I thought it was pretty good till this moment.
Well, there you go. Craig has a thing of
Apologies.
ruining people's day.
I like
Yeah.
being insulting.
Yeah, I noticed that. You do. You actually enjoy it. You're
I'm
grinning
very
all over
sadistic
your
person.
face.
It's one of the things of just being a wee jolly guy. It's just you kind of get away with that
Yes.
sometimes.
A lot of people are jolly. It's a proven fact.
You know,
Yes.
I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, that joy is usually put forward as a kind of fat, happy guy, rather than just an emotion. A lot of the
It's
time.
also a word I can't pronounce.
Aye, with the
You
L's.
can't pronounce
Jolly.
jolly.
Right, come on.
Lay.
Right, we're talking to Kay.
Sorry,
Morrison.
right.
is-
Councillor, Deputy Provost, standing as an MSP in the May elections.
Yeah,
Anything
that's
else?
correct.
What else do you do?
What else do I do?
That's already a lot of
Sounds
things.
quite a lot. Yes.
That must be
You probably
busy.
want to know about my hobbies now.
Yeah, what
Yes.
hobbies have you got?
Hobbies. A lot of my life is taken up with the work that I do as a councillor and Depute Provost. Because I attend a lot of meetings, including in the evenings. But I do occasionally socialise, get together with other people and have a bit of a blether, because I do quite like blethering, do a lot of blethering. And this probably is quite appropriate to mention here. I record books.
Yeah,
Record
you
books.
mentioned that.
Yes.
I don't know if it was on the podcast, but I know you did. We did
I
speak
think you
about
mentioned
it a
it
little bit.
before, aye.
Yes, and have been doing that for quite a few years. It's interesting, but it can be really challenging sometimes, because the books that I'm sent might be books I would never, ever, ever read, for pleasure,
Is there anything
as a
that
matter
we
of
might
choice.
have heard of?
Probably not, because the people who listen to these, well, actually some Susan Hill type books, the whole mixture from hospital romances, that kind of thing, to other much more serious stuff. I have recorded a lot of books for young people, teenagers, because apparently I have quite a young voice.
Right.
Recording, yes.
I could see that.
You will have noticed that already, because you're experts, experts in the field. And I used to record the Central Five Times and Advertiser.
Right.
So you know this publication extremely well. And apparently listeners liked snippets. I had to choose articles that I thought would be of interest to the listeners.
So it wasn't just a read through the entire thing.
But I had to do the obituaries. I had to do the deaths column. And oh my goodness, really harrowing sometimes. Sometimes I just had to stop and try to pull myself together, and then do a rewind and now do it on a laptop and all that kind of thing. That was probably the most difficult. But occasionally in novels, most of the books that I'm sent are fictional. There will be a description of something, an experience that is really emotional and is, really affects the characters involved. And I have to hit the right tone. In other words, not become emotional myself. And sometimes it is quite tempting. If it's well written, that's what will happen. So sometimes I have to go back and record and re-record a few times to get it right, so that it doesn't sound as if I'm talking down to the listener. Doesn't sound as if I'm too much in the story, at the centre of the story. So I think it's probably quite good for me as in practicing skill in using the voice. I think that's probably helpful to me. I can tell you're absolutely rapt.
Well, the thing, but I'm quite interested in this because, as I said, I was mentioning before, I work with a lot of kind of rappers and all that kind of stuff, just involved in hip hop music, and there's a lot of kind of focusing towards diction and the way people talk a lot of the time, and just trying to get everything out the face nicely as best you can. And it's quite interesting kind of hearing, because you'll have as books are quite time consuming to go through as you're doing that, so you have plenty of time just to go through that.
Yes, and you have to allow that. Some days I might have an hour and a half, maybe in the evening before I go out again, something like that. And I will expect that I'm going to record, say, 20 pages, which actually isn't all that much if you're recording a book that has about 500 pages in it. But some days, straightforward, I don't know why it is, there's some sort of a dynamic going on inside me, and I'm able to record pages and pages without a blip. Right. And then, all of a sudden I'll go,
oh, that's annoying.
So then I have to go back and do that again. And occasionally there's something about the way those words are combined that makes it almost inevitable that I will do that. I keep doing, that is maddening, it really is.
As a rapper, I've went through many a night hating myself because I can't pronounce 2 words that I've written. I wrote them.
Yes.
And I still can't pronounce them.
Yes.
Oh, it kills you.
It does. It does. It is maddening.
So do you do all the
recording
yourself?
So you have to rewrite that.
I
Do you?
Depends. If it's a serious topic and the words need to be said that way, then I'll just keep working on it until I get it. But if it's a rubbish song, I could change
Sometimes as well,
Yeah.
if it is a bit of tongue twister, the art of that is to get over that. And
Yeah,
kinda
the flow,
learning it is kind of
learning the
Aye.
flow of it. Aye.
that's it. Kind of gives you that.
That's why flow is important. That's why a lot of rappers need to work on the flow.
Yes, that
That's it,
flow
that's it.
is essential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I suppose what we should do is kind of go back to the beginning, kind of talk
so
about childhood and
rewind.
stuff like that.
So
We'll go right back to the beginning as well. Did you notice at any point in your younger days that you decided that you wanted to get into politics?
my background is a Northern Irish one.
Mhm.
So, there's a lot of politics about in Northern Ireland. Quite a lot.
Yeah.
It's politics you're after. That's the place
That's
for
the place
you.
to go. Yeah.
It's quite hard to get away from it, in fact.
Yeah.
And I think that as a young person, I did kind of try to get away from it. Tried to not get involved in any of the factions. And it is still very, very polarised in
Yeah,
Northern
it's-
Ireland.
it's-
Both extremes hold sway. And I think people still vote a certain way often out of worry, fear about what might happen if they don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And probably it wasn't until I left Northern Ireland that I became more involved in politics, because there are more options over here
Yeah.
in Scotland. So when I came to Scotland, I suppose that's over 30 years ago. I'm now a fifer, really. For the first 20 years or so, I was probably an incomer. And now I think I might have reached the point at which I am an honorary. That's a difficult word to say
That's
too, you know.
There
That's
you go,
one I wouldn't
that's
write. I'd stick away from that.
An honorary fifer. But wherever I've been, wherever I've worked, and I started off in education as a teacher,
Yeah.
an English teacher of English. Before leaving Northern Ireland, I was head of an English department, but I was always a trade unionist, no matter where I was. Whichever school I was working in, I was nearly always the union rep.
Right.
And that meant that when I came to Fife, that continued. Because it is just part of my identity now. And I ended up going into further education here, Adam Smith College, teaching in the college, and really enjoyed that. Though the college itself it's had one or two turbulent moments over the years, but it has delivered and more to its students. It has transformed lives and given people new opportunities, I think, and is still doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
And I was an EIS fella. That's the further education bit of the EIS union rep. So I became the chairperson of the branch for quite a long time. And because further education colleges in Scotland are incorporated and they don't have national bargaining, each college has to agree its own terms, its own conditions, its own pay. So that means that you have to have a team representing the members of staff, whether they're janitors or catering staff or whatever they happen to be, teaching staff, negotiating with the college management and also fighting for the members of staff if there are problems, if there are grievances. And sometimes there are collective grievances. Members of staff collectively decide that they want something to change, and talking hasn't done it for them so far. So occasionally I had to present the case to the college board, present the arguments. And it may well be that because of all of that experience, becoming involved in politics was inevitable.
Yeah.
Trade unions are fairly closely aligned to my political party, the Labour Party. And you could say that it was nearly guaranteed, not absolutely guaranteed, but I did get involved in the Labour Party and then ended up standing for election. First time round, I did not expect to be elected, incidentally.
When was this?
This is Oh, this is ages ago. The first time I stood was 99. It doesn't
Right,
feel
right.
that long ago,
What
but
did
it
you,
is.
did you stand to be elected as a councillor?
Yes.
So you've
I
never
did.
stood as an MSP or anything like that?
No.
No.
Right.
No.
Right, so this is your first time.
This is, yes.
So
this
what
is
made
my
you want
first
to
time.
take the leap?
Yes, I know. It is interesting, I suppose.
Is it scary?
It is, well,
Is it nerve-wracking a wee bit? Because it's a bit
so I think,
different.
I think sometimes it is a bit nerve-wracking because there's quite a lot of responsibility involved in it. While I'm not completely it, because there's a campaign, it's a team effort, really. Nonetheless, I'm a focus at times.
Yeah.
And so I feel it's important that I come up with the goods, that I deliver, that I don't drop people in it,
Yeah.
to put it very simply. And so, this is a fascinating experience. And it is similar to standing for election as a councillor. There are similarities. But the scale of this is obviously bigger,
Yeah.
much bigger. And as a councillor, you can, if you've been elected before, you can stand on your record. You can refer to what you've already done, and people begin to recognise you a bit and accept that maybe you are making a difference, and maybe, just maybe, you're an okay person, because that matters too. People have to trust you a bit.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But then, because there is a scale difference, obviously, there's a bit of a leap in standing as an MSP or for election as an MSP. But somebody has to do it, guys. Somebody has to, and it might as well be me.
Right.
And I probably reached the point now at which I have a few skills and have a bit of experience. And I've worked quite hard as a councillor and as Depute Provost of Fife, so that I feel that I now have something to offer. I don't want that to sound egotistical. I don't think I'm amazing. I'm great. I don't think I am, not at all. But I think maybe I've reached the point at which I actually could be useful as an MSP.
Right.
I need people to believe that. I need people to vote for me. Quite a lot of them, really.
Yeah. So I'm curious about this provost thing, or deputy provost thing. How do you get elected as that? Is that... I have no idea how that happens.
No, well, I think most people would probably feel exactly the same way.
So who is the provost?
The provost is Jim Leishman.
Right, I should know this.
Well, if
What
you're
were you
in
talking about this earlier?
I don't know. Are you interested in football?
No.
I don't know. Well,
Look at me.
look, neither am I. Neither am I. But I know a wee bit of football now just because of the association with Jim Leishman.
Just knowing how
He was, and is still fairly well known, very well known, in fact, in probably more so in the west of Fife. Round about Dunfermline particularly, people know Jim Leishman's name.
Right.
Because he was a footballer and then he got involved in managing, and it's Dunfermline Athletic. The names are familiar to
That's
me.
why
But
I have no idea who he is.
I'd heard that name before, but
Yeah.
I had no idea who it was. I have heard the name though.
Right.
So he sometimes gives talks, after dinner talks, all that kind of thing,
Right.
and it's known as a personality as well as a councillor and the Provost of Fife. So after the local government elections in 2012, almost 4 years ago, we talked about, Labour happened to have enough people to form a minority administration. And we had to decide who we would like to have in the various posts. You need someone who's a spokesperson for, say, education, and that's actually an independent councillor.
Right.
Because we don't have huge numbers, and because we wanted to involve other political parties, maybe try and do things slightly different, though it's very, very difficult. It is very difficult. We could get other folk from other political groups involved in fairly strategic roles. But usually the provost is the person who's from the administration, the main political group on the council. And we proposed Jim Leishman. because of his profile, really. Because he is, even if you may not recognise the name or him, will never have met him. You might have seen photos of him.
Maybe, probably.
You may have, yeah. And maybe even if you met him, you'd say, "Oh yeah,
yeah, I probably know of him. I just don't know
yes."
the name.
So we thought it was a good idea, given all of that, his recognition factor, that Jim should be the provost. So what happens then is that there's a meeting of the council, and somebody proposes Jim, somebody else seconds, and then the opposition, usually they could have said, "Yeah, that's fine," but they proposed somebody else.
Right.
And seconded, etc. So there had to be a vote. So we even had to vote on that. We have to vote on just about everything.
Right. So it's all elected.
Yes, that's right. And the same happened for me. Somebody proposed and seconded. And then there was a vote. So suddenly there I was, Depute Provost. And I can remember there was quite a lot of media interest that day. And it was mainly because it was Jim Leishman, I think.
Right.
There would have been some. There would have been some interest anyway, but I think there was more because it was Jim. So there was, the television cameras were there, you name it, they were all there. And I can remember waiting at one point with Jim to go into a lift in Fife House to go down to the ground floor to be interviewed by somebody else. But they were all interviewing him, I should point out. Yeah. I was there as a sort of accessory or something. In a support role. And I can remember Jim saying, "I cannot believe this. I do not believe this. I'm just a wee lad from Lochgelly. This is amazing, Kay." And I said, yes, Jim, you're from Lochgelly. You're now the provost, and that's fantastic. And congratulations, well done. But which is likelier, Jim, that somebody from Lochgelly becomes provost of Fife, or that somebody from outside Bushmills becomes Depute Provost of Fife? I'm absolutely stunned by this. And he said, "Yeah, I think you have a point there. Yeah, you have a point there, Kay."
So I don't even thought about that.
Yes.
So
it
what
just
did you
shows
do?
you how tolerant the people of Fife are. How accepting.
Can I just ask before, the way you were talking about Jim there, it kind of seems like he's just a bit of a kind of a bubbling head you put out there for kind of the press, and it doesn't. Could you explain, kind of, not in great detail because this is about you today, but
yes.
Just give us
What
an
does he
idea of
do?
what he actually does.
Yes. Well,
so he's not just a kind of bubblehead dog that you put in front of the paper.
No, that's right. Whatever it is he does, I do much the same thing, because obviously I have to deputise for him. So, for example, if he's invited to a conference or some sort of event to give a speech, and often it is to launch something or to open something or to acknowledge achievement, then he will be expected to know something about that, about what has actually happened, maybe something about the history, and comment on that, and really acknowledge that the amount of work that's gone into whatever it is, because there usually is a lot of work, and it can often be years and years and years of work that allows the people who are working on the project to get to that point. For example, tomorrow morning I will be helping to open, or reopen it should be, the Gregg Institute.
Right.
That's in Leven. I'll be cutting a ribbon and saying a few words. Yeah. Yes.
Do you have your own pair of scissors for this that you carry about with you?
These will be supplied on the day.
Good.
Yes. Actually, maybe I should bring a pair just in case.
Just remember not to run.
Yes. So often it is highlighting the sort of activity that goes on in Fife, the achievements of individuals and groups of people, particularly community groups who are beavering away, often on very little resources, using their own time very often, trying to realise a project that will benefit the rest of the community. And I'm sure that the same will apply to those organisations involved in the GREG. I think there are four organisations involved. Gingerbread, for instance, 5 Gingerbread is one. The Voluntary Network and Add Action.
You know more about these, you're a youth worker.
Yes, and Citizens Advice. That's another one.
Are they based
Avoid
there as
that one. Citizens Advice Rights 5. Yes, they'll all be in the GREG.
Right.
So go to the GREG if you want to know. I think that's the slogan or motto or whatever.
That's cool. So have you been to things like the Kirkcaldy YMCA and stuff like that? Because I used to work there a while ago.
Well, I haven't been to the Kirkcaldy one. I've been to the Glenrothes one.
Aye.
Well, not in my Depute Provost role.
No.
I've been into the Y in Kirkcaldy because I was interested in the work that they were doing during the summer with young people.
Yeah. I was part of that.
It's
as
really
well,
excellent stuff going on, activities and not just empty-headed things either, to go back to your previous idea, but quite developmental, play, but activities with a focus, so that all of the young folk who were involved in that felt they were actually doing something and learning something, but not in a schooly way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's their holiday.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That was what we liked. the youth club in Kennedy. We've tried to get in touch with them to sort of set up something with mics.
Yeah.
We used to
get
know
the young people to do a podcast. That was one of the main stuff. I thought that would be pretty cool.
To speak about issues that they're having, because I think a lot of the time kids are sort of ignored. I think when they've got issues, especially if they've got political opinions, they're sort of brushed off as just being you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of young kids actually do. They maybe don't know the ins and outs of politics as a system, but they've definitely got ideas. And I think people brush off kids too much. I think they sort of dismiss what kids are thinking, and I think that's wrong. So we've had some ideas of, as I say, getting them on a podcast or getting them to write songs and record songs or whatever. We've kind of been not responded to very often.
It's quite.
I don't want to say ignored.
Even the fact that I used to work there is pretty irritating as well. I've been just told.
They're getting offered free labour, and they're just. Nobody seems to be interested. It's weird.
That's downright bizarre.
Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's a waste.
It is a waste.
Isn't it a waste of a resource?
It's a total waste. I don't know why. Because you say they keep going for arts and crafts for teenagers and stuff.
This was one of the things, when I was working in youth clubs before, there was a lot of the kids, they would say Friday night things, and this is one of the big problems everywhere. I would say teenagers want to be out drinking a lot of the time, and trying to attract people in on a Friday and Saturday night is a bit of a nightmare sometimes, to try and drag these people in. There is obviously some people that come up that aren't interested in that kind of subculture of drinking.
That was me. I was the only person that turned up one night.
But and then it's really difficult to try and grab these people in. But they would offer things like arts and crafts, and it's like, are you kidding?
For a 15-year-old,
you're wanting to just, you're going to give them Pritt stick and glitter for a Friday night, really. But there was some of the things, and a lot of these youth clubs fall into that same trap a lot of the time. And I think, I'm not saying get them into do a podcast on a Friday.
No.
But offering kind of the interesting stuff.
They can make music on a Friday. I think they would be interested.
That's
in
right.
Music.
But this is an excellent idea, and the police are working on a similar idea. They're trying to raise some funding for something called Safe Zone, because young people have told them.
I used
to work for that as well.
Yes,
I do a thing at the YMCA
for a Saturday night. I think they're hoping to work with other organisations.
I do a thing for Kirkcaldy YMCA right now. It's a kind of high school age kind of disco thing on a Friday and Saturday nights and stuff like that. So and it's run by the police as well. I do that.
Sure.
Do the DJing there.
Heard a police officer talking about this. I talked about it a bit because I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Especially if transport is provided.
Yeah, they do minibuses.
If you don't, but they need money. The police, like everybody else, they need money to actually run these buses, get people from A to B. There's no point in organising something and say Michael Woods in Glenrothes, if young people here can't get there.
Yeah.
That's it.
They've no money to get there. So you have to make sure you've got a minibus or something ready for them, and that it's what they actually want to do. But I'm sure that the police officer who gave us a bit more detail about this last night was referring to recording type opportunities. You know, he was fairly vague, you know.
Yeah.
I think he's just trying to include as many opportunities as can be organised. And I don't see why that sort of thing shouldn't happen in the Michael
Another
Woods.
issue is that they need to be vague to attract as many people.
That's it.
Yeah, that's probably
Whereas
true.
if they had more funding, they'd be able to
Be a bit more specific.
a bit more specific and have a couple of things going on.
Yes.
That's another issue with funding.
But the police used to have, we'll come back to that because obviously there's something else you would like to say and I'm now taking over the conversation. There used to be blue light discos. You
we
know
used to go
those?
to them as well.
Yeah.
I used to DJ.
I guess
they-
you've done it. They
They're
leave
fairly
them
good, and
some-
then they kind of dwindled.
Well, the thing
There
is,
was a
with
lot of
them-
fights at the leaving one.
Well, the
which
problem
was
was,
an
I used to be part of these things, and it was like the actual blue light safe zone thing that run around everywhere with big tents.
Yeah.
Me and a guy called Dave used to DJ at these things, and some places you went, you would get a huge turnout.
Yeah.
Some places you went, not so much, and it did start to kind of dwindle out near the end. But we were everywhere. We just went to like wee public parks and outside like schools and stuff like that. And kind of, I think we finished at like 9 at some nights and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. Like a kind of a late night disco.
They started off at
outside.
leaving the swimming pool,
Oh.
and then they kind of stopped because leaving the swimming pool was just getting kind of overrun.
Just getting
It was
hosed.
meant to be in the big gym,
I see.
and then everybody was going up to the room above the swimming pool, and then just running about everywhere, and
Yeah.
it was becoming harder to control. So I think they just put it in a big tent.
Yeah,
And just
that's
thought,
it,
we'll
that's
just
it.
chuck you on the big tent.
Well,
Yes.
they still done like an annual thing, like a yearly event,
Did they?
sort of big thing for everybody in Leaving Mill sort of thing, rather than just kind of dragging it to certain areas. But that was pretty interesting. I quite enjoyed doing that. So. It's good to hear it's still kind of running, and maybe there's an idea for
Well, I
coming
think,
back.
the police are working on this right now.
Mhm.
They're trying to get the money and the support. I think
Well,
other
I know they've
organisations...
got tents and generators ready for it. So
Yes,
if
that'd be great.
Mhm.
It'd be really good. Because what I remember of the blue light discos is that the key to their success was that they were fairly unstructured.
Yeah.
You know, as you were saying earlier, if you say to a young person, come along to the Lomond Centre or wherever on Friday night and you will do this, okay?
Yeah.
You know, the young person is already thinking, no, excuse me, I didn't decide to do that. You're telling me that that's what I'm doing. So instead, what seemed to happen is young people would arrive. Quite often they'd just spend a lot of time talking to one another. Sometimes a bit of dancing, that kind of thing. And occasionally talking to some of the service representatives who were there, because we have folk there from health and all that sort of thing. And they could have had information and advice if they'd wanted to. It was available to them. But it was all fairly relaxed. And, you know, maybe that's why,
Did
it
still
was okay.
breathalyse people?
They did, yeah.
See, I don't kind of fully agree with that. I know why they're doing it. It's because they didn't want alcohol in the premises. But I think that causes a bit of... People get a bit uptight about that thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's fully something that I agree with.
Well,
I've not got much argument against
the way
it.
the way
but I don't
discos
know.
used to run was that it was probably never said out loud in the kind of education industry, but it was kind of well known that people would have a few drinks before they went out to like high school nights and stuff like that. It was kind of well known that would happen a lot of the time, and it would be somewhat tolerated because they would have the people in. But I think actually like breathalyzing children straight away before allowing them to actually enter the building.
It's intimidating.
It's intimidating straight away.
Intimidating, too controlling, you think?
Too controlling.
I think
Yeah.
so. I think a lot of people didn't turn up because of that. I think they would get more in if you would sort of take a bit of a blind eye. I mean, at 16, you can go to a restaurant and get a couple of pints. So I don't see why there's this stringent sort of... I'll just make sure that they're not really drunk. If they've had a beer or two, then turn a bit of a blind eye. And I think it would maybe be a bit more
Obviously,
relaxed.
if they're swinging everywhere and just kind of just falling about everywhere. Obviously
Obviously,
don't let
they're
them
not
in,
getting
but
in. But
there's like, aye,
I think it's too strict, and I think it's a bit intimidating for some people.
Yeah,
That's
so you think maybe there should be a bit leeway with regard
A
to
bit of
that.
leeway.
yeah.
No, I
Yes.
think that would maybe help.
Yeah, so I wonder what the police.
I know that's another thing.
police
I don't think the
approach
police would
to
be
that
too
Next
would
time,
happy
be-
with
next time down to YM, I'll speak to the police guys and I'll see if we can get them up. We'll talk to them.
Aye.
That's good. Right, we'll do that.
Yeah,
next
that's a
time.
good
That's
idea.
Cool. We've sorted out the next podcast, so that's fine.
Yes.
But so, where did we get as far as your
Let's
kind
think.
of
Where
life?
did we get to? We talked about
What you do?
how provost becomes elected and depute provost and the sort of things we
So
do.
Aye. So what specifically is your line of work, kind of under the provost?
Well, it's if Jim cannot do something, I do it.
You go and do it. So
Yes, with the same chain and everything. But every now and then he will be doing something simultaneously, more or less.
Yeah.
So I'm allowed to wear a different chain. It's the Dunfermline chain. Now, all of these chains are worth a lot of money, and they're kept under lock and key in a safe. Sometimes people ask me, "And do you keep the chain at home, Kay?" I'm just no.
Even if you did, why would you admit it?
That's
Why would you tell
right.
people that?
Yes. And I went to an awards event one evening. It was really well attended, and people were eating and drinking and having a very, very good time. And towards the end of the evening, I came out of the hall, and a couple of the people who were there and attended were having a whale of a time. Spotted me with the chain because they'd seen me earlier talking, doing a blah 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 on stage, and they said, "Oh, let's have a look at the chain." Quite often people do. They want to examine it, feel the weight of it, and all that sort of thing. And one said, "Let me have it. Let me have that chain. I want to put it on." And I said, "No, I don't think I can allow that." "Let me have it."
Oh, God.
Yes. And I said, "I can't do that. I cannot do that."
People should know.
Oh,
that.
that's really mean. And this person had had a drink or two.
Oh God, I one of them. Right.
So
Should have realised them.
was coming towards me to remove the chain.
Oh no.
At which point I thought, maybe I need to get offside right now. But that's really the only time that has happened.
Right.
You know, usually people just want to have a close look at it because there's plenty of gold involved, and there are rubies and little diamonds and things like that, and it looks very nice.
If we had asked, would you have been able to bring it up?
I would have had to have a security guy with me.
That's all right.
Well, if it
That
was
would have been
interesting,
okay,
if
wouldn't
spoke
it?
to him,
We'll
but-
get you back. We'll get him speaking.
Yes, he could have been on. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll get
yeah.
him
I would have
chat.
done that. That's fine.
Yeah.
So, I totally forgot what I was going to ask. You got questions? I'll try and remember what I was going to say. As I was saying, I forgot.
It's probably my fault going
So,
off at a bit of a
As a
tangent.
councillor, right?
Yes.
This is the basic thing I've got. This is from Wikipedia, so it's probably wrong. You get feedback from the general public, and then you give that to the MSP, and then the MSP takes it to the Scottish Parliament, and then gets back to you, and then you implement it into the council. Is that right, or is that Wikipedia information?
I think that's a wee bit Wikipedia.
Right. So what does the councillor do?
A councillor, on a daily basis, will deal with complaints that people have, problems. It could be a pothole in the road, or it could be a leaky roof or something a bit more serious. And then the councillor will try to sort that out, will contact the officers in the particular service and will do his or her best to make sure that the problem is resolved as quickly as possible. Because often my reputation depends upon how responsive I am to complaints and how effectively I deal with them. If weeks go by and nothing has changed, that doesn't look too good for me. So it's important that I do the job that people expect me to do. But a councillor also has to attend a lot of meetings, council meetings and local meetings. Could be community councils, tenants and residents groups, hall management committees, quite a lot of meetings. And at those meetings, the councillor will make an input, will express an opinion, will become involved in the decisions that are taken. There might be a vote, lots of votes, as I said earlier. And those decisions will inform what happens afterwards. The councillor also has to attend full council meetings. And at full council, decisions are taken about policy, about what the council's going to do, what position the council's going to take on a particular issue. And the council also makes decisions about budgets, because we obviously have to cut our cloth according to, no, that's not quite right. It's round the other way, isn't it? You cut your coat according to the cloth. So it depends on how much cloth you have, in other words. Right. If you have plenty of cloth, you can do loads of things. But if the amount of cloth available to you, I'm imagining some checked cloth here with a wee bit of red running through it, obviously. Because
it has to be good looking cloth.
It has to be nice cloth. If the amount of cloth is decreasing, which is the case in Fife, the amount of money that's coming in, then it means that you have to look for ways of reducing what you're already doing, or doing things more efficiently. Trying to maybe combine bits of work, bits of services, health and social work. That's a good example, combining there. So you make some savings. But no matter how hard you save, many of these savings you come up with, you will reach a point, and it was reached this year, at which you have to consider serious cuts. Yeah. And maybe even consider raising the council tax. Because this year, the amount of money that the council received was less than we were expecting. So in December last year, we were told, well, actually it's going to be less than you thought. So that meant that the budget had to change. The proposals all had to change to reflect that. What
time scale do you get to do that, to actually change?
Sometimes it's just a matter of weeks, a few weeks. I know, and these are huge decisions. If you think about social work and education, the amount of money those services need in order to run and to deliver the services that people depend on. And those are what we call core services. They're the ones that we do everything in our power to protect. And then there are others, more, there's been a lot of controversy around certain things, libraries, for instance. If a library isn't used by a lot of people, can you justify spending money on that when you need that money to spend on education, say? And you know that you're not going to be able to get money from anywhere else. We, as a council, well, here in Fife, we considered raising council tax this time in order to generate a bit of extra income. And we'd thought if we raise it by a bit, not a lot, then that would give us it's a little bit of freedom, a bit of scope in which to move the money around. And we asked people, what do you think? What do you think if we increased it by, say, I don't know what it was to begin with, just a few %, and that meant that we could spend some of that money on schools and social work and so on. How would you feel about that? Would you be okay with that increase? And quite a lot of people said yes, because council tax has been frozen in Scotland for 9 years. It's a long time. So we'd thought, right, okay, we'll maybe do this. Why don't we do this? So we mentioned to the Scottish Government that we wanted to do this. John Swinney is the guy who has responsibility, whose portfolio it is to look after finance. John Swinney, at first, he seemed to consider it, and then he wrote to the council and said, if you increase council tax, you will lose the bit of money allocated to you by the Scottish Government, and you'll lose money from education. I'll take that back. And I'll take back some other money associated with health and social care. Take that as well. In fact, I'll take back 25 million. So it was an offer we could not refuse. We couldn't afford to then do anything. So that meant that our hands were tied. So we couldn't raise council tax, and we couldn't say to people, okay, in order to cover this 25 million, we're going to have to raise council tax by about 30% or something. You can't do that to people.
I don't know why you would threaten to
I didn't understand
take
that.
money back. I know they're against raising council tax, but that seems like a big thing.
But they're going to raise council tax if they're in power after May. But only for some. We want to get rid of the council tax altogether and have something else, another system that works better. I think council tax has probably had its day. It's like a lot of other things, like the bedroom tax. I would like to get rid of that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, get rid of that. It's ghastly, punishing people for something they've absolutely no control over. It's absolutely diabolical.
I know there's a big load of support coming for the Scottish service tax. That's getting a lot of traction behind it. Is that something that you agree with?
I think we would consider all sorts of options.
Right.
And look, I had expected Nicola to be a bit more courageous. Genuinely, I did. I thought that she would say, we want to have a really close look at how we raise local taxation. Look, I want to have a look at that. We want to do things completely differently. We will not have the council tax system any longer. But she hasn't done that. She's just sort of tinkering around the edges. And it's more or less the same as the Tories have done. Same applies to the taxation. Virtually no change there either in Scotland. Very, very similar to what the Conservatives have done. And I am genuinely surprised by that, because I'd thought that before an election, Scottish parliamentary election, there would be a bit more novelty, more creativity, looking at things and doing things differently, and then being able to talk about that, in a fairly dramatic way. But that's not happening.
I think people have been saying that they've sort of got in the position where they're expecting working class votes, so they're just trying to appeal to more middle class and upper class people now at this point. They've got their core voters, so they're just trying to expand a wee bit, and they've sort of gotten more
don't rock the boat. Yes.
I don't know where they would be, but they're more.
Should we talk about the Loki article? Is this kind of what he was saying?
I don't think I read the full article. Did you read that article?
Which article?
The one you shared by Darren Loki McGarvey.
Yes, because
I know he was talking similar things, saying that's where I got that from.
That's right. And really what he's saying, if you boil it right down, is the time has come to do things differently. It's not working now. We need to look at everything differently. There are people living in poverty. It's not working for them. The current system is not working for them. And the taxation system is not working for those people. But we have folk in Scotland who could easily afford to pay a bit more tax. This is not greedy or taking advantage of people. I think it's just being fair. If, just say, you earned 150,000.
Oh, that would be awesome.
But you wouldn't be surprised if I then said to you, well, I'm expecting you to spend a bit, or to pay a bit more tax.
I'd happily pay more tax.
Yeah.
Because
and then I would be able to use that money to help the people who are at the bottom, need a helping hand, need a bit of support, and put it into projects that help families, help youngsters, education with a small e. And in Fife we have family nurture initiative with all sorts of things going on which are making a difference. They are actually helping the 18 or 20% who are still not achieving what we would like them to do, or what we would like them to achieve. And the families who are struggling a bit, give them the kind of help that they actually need so that they have a better chance and a better future. I would like to be able to put more resources there. In Fife we have started to narrow the gap. We're helping those youngsters who previously left school with just about nothing at all. So those youngsters are doing better now. So we're not just closing the gap, though. We're raising the bar for everybody, and that's the way it should be. Not just focusing on one group, the ones who are really clever, or the ones who need a bit of help to get onto the first rung. At least that's the way I see it. And that's where I would like to see more resources. And I would use that tax from the people who can easily afford it. And I think quite a lot of them would say, yeah, I agree, that's fair. I've got off pretty lightly so far. But yeah, I think that would work, especially people who are sort of socially minded, who are interested in a bit of
I know there's a few
equality.
rich people who would consider themselves socialists.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is shocking to some people,
Mm-hmm.
especially on the right wing.
But yeah, I can quite believe that.
But it's starting to happen.
Yeah, but the argument is that if you ask those people to pay more tax, they'll leave the country.
We've had that argument before.
I don't believe it. I do not believe it. I think that that's a justification for doing nothing. I really passionately believe this. I think that it is a justification for a lack of courage. It's quite a weak position.
Yeah.
Whereas if you really believe, if you're really socialist, for instance, if you're genuinely socialist and you want to get rid of austerity and stop the cuts, whether they're SNP or Tory, then you should be saying, we want to take money from the people who can afford it and help the ones who have virtually nothing and who need that help, who can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
It's. I know it's a very simple idea,
Yeah.
but for me it works.
Right. So I have an issue. Right. On March the 10th, I'm sure it was reported, the taxicard scheme was cut in Fife.
That's right.
Now, my mum at this point has got one leg, and because of the taxicard scheme, which I think it started on the 1st of April.
Yeah, it probably would be. It would be the
Which
beginning
was
of the financial year.
Sick joke for a start, to start that on the 1st of April. But now, she still has the free bus travel thing.
Yeah.
But now, if she doesn't have money, she's to travel with one leg on a bus because she can't afford taxis.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now, I understand that there's cuts, but it seems that every time a government body has to make a cut, it comes from goes towards disabled things. Is there a reason why it was a disabled cut and not a cut to someone else? Like, for instance, the roundabout round there, there's planting trees, so there's people that are doing that to make it look pretty, and I'm sure there's other places in Fife where they're planting flowers on roundabouts and things like that. Steve Grimmond is still making 147 grand a year just by being the chief executive. Is there not another place you could have made a cut instead of disabled people? Again, because it always seems to be disabled people taking the fall.
I can see why you might make that observation. And you will have noticed that of recent years in Glenrothes town centre, a lot of time, effort and some local sponsorship money, I understand, but there will be some council money in there as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All of that has been spent on making Glenrothes town centre look pretty, with a lot of hanging baskets and boxes, and it all looked absolutely amazing. And Glenrothes has, as a result, has won competitions.
Yeah, it does look
But you
very
have
nice.
to. It looks nice, but is that a priority?
Mhm.
And you're right. We have to balance the budget. We have to be able to actually pay for things. And my understanding is that Ring and Ride is intended to take the place of the taxi card.
Yeah,
but
but
you
have
can
to-
tell me
you
if
have
that's
to-
not working for your mum.
You have to phone up, was it 2 weeks in advance? And then they can phone you up on the day and just be like, nah, we
This
can't
is
take it.
one of the phone calls I was helping Mum make for Ring and Ride. There was basically they said you have to give them sort of 2 weeks' notice, and that it may become filled, and at any point they could just call you up and just say, right, we can't pick you up, sort of thing. So your place isn't
Protected,
isn't
secure.
properly protected or secure.
Yeah.
You have to plan in advance
You have
and
to
it's
plan in
not
advance.
secured.
Yep.
Which I think it should be either one or the other.
Yep.
You either plan in advance and then it's secured, or you go on the day and it's first come, first serve. I think that would be better. But it seems to be both, and it's just
So
not
I
working
think,
it properly.
that's the problem with their system.
That's absolutely crucial. If she can't depend on that, then it's absolutely useless for her. So there is an issue there that I should take back to the guys who run transportation and who run Ring and Ride, etc., so that they know that this is happening.
Right.
Because we can't say on one hand we're offering you a service, we're providing the service, and it will be fine. It's going to be okay, hunky dory, and in fact isn't. We have to know if it's not hunky dory, and that needs to be sorted out, because people who depended on the taxi card before have to have something else now that they can depend on in exactly the same way.
Cool. I'm quite happy with that.
Perfect. Aye, that's fine.
So, we've covered councillor stuff, we've got provost stuff,
Vegetarian stuff.
Did we finish the vegetarian stuff?
Well, if you want to go back to that,
I think we finished.
I think we've well enough for that one.
Had enough vegetarian stuff.
We've covered a fair amount of ground,
Yeah. Right, so, why we should vote for you is, I think, a good place to go next. Why should we vote for you and not, I don't know,
not somebody
Green
else.
Party or SSP or the SNP,
yes,
or Conservatives? Why shouldn't we vote for the Conservatives?
Never do that ever.
Are you smiling, by the way, listener? You should vote for me because you can trust me, because you know I deliver, because I've been working in this constituency, maybe not all of it, but a fair chunk of it, for some time now. I have a good, strong track record, one that I think just about anybody would be proud of. I work very, very hard for my constituents, and I take pride on doing a good job. And I also believe that we've reached the point with the Labour Party. We've experienced a few changes of recent times, quite a lot of drama. We've reached the point at which Labour has returned to its roots. It's the Labour Party that I know and love. And on the back of a Labour Party membership card, it says that the party exists to fulfil its aim, which is about working together. If we work together, then we can achieve more for everybody. Not just for the people who are rich, the people who are earning 150,000, but for all of the people. So there is a lot of strength in that, and I believe that anyway. As a trade unionist, I would. So vote for Kay Morrison. She is easily the best.
And third person there as well. Perfect. Okay.
I've got a couple of questions that I was
just when we thought we'd finished.
Something I forgot. Right.
Is it a good question? Is it good?
This is what happens in podcast. The ends basically say for stuff we forgot. So
this question, it freaks me out a wee bit. When I was searching you on the council website,
that's creepy as it is. Right there.
That is creepy. It's got an address, and I looked at this address, and it's a residential area. Is that your home address?
It is my home address.
That's weird.
No.
It's scary that
to put your home address.
No, I exist. I exist as a person living in a wee house in Balfarg.
But
most of the people in the area know I live there.
Yeah, I know, but it seems weird that it would be public knowledge to show your house.
We were speaking earlier about people just contacted you, like randomly out of the blue.
Yeah.
Do people come to your house and just be like, hello?
Very rarely.
No.
Really, very rarely. Only if they're very, very desperate.
So they do have a bit of respect in that sense that they're not just to come over and...
people phone me or the email. Mostly nowadays it's email.
That's your house number?
Yeah.
That's weird. That's weird to me. I don't know why.
Nearly everybody who contacts me begins by saying, hello Kay, I know you're busy. I'm sorry to disturb you.
Yeah.
There's always some sort of an apology. Very, very respectful. Generally speaking, very considerate. That's been my experience so far.
Do you think we were respectful in the way we contacted you? We just sort of went, alright, You want to be on a podcast?
Yeah, you want to do this? Do you want to do this? You do it. And I said, yeah, of
Got
course.
some things hot
Tell
going
the
on.
tone in the writing that
I
was just
said,
like,
I know. I said, you make it sound irresistible.
Yeah.
that's what gives us the charm, is the fact
That's
that it's just
right.
like,
I think
yeah,
it's
it's
awesome.
going to be okay. Sort of
I
thing.
think we're great.
That's
Yeah,
it.
you're humdingers.
We
You are
get
both
our-
humdingers.
We get our guests through Facebook.
Yes.
That's
perfect.
professionality. Is.
So,
That's good. You research and you do a troll.
Yeah.
so did you have, was that it?
Was there something else?
There was probably something else, but I've forgotten it now. So we could sort of. I think I'm quite happy with it.
Excellent, man.
Oh
Excellent.
no! What? Aye. Hang on.
Okay.
We're
It's my-
professional, unprofessional, right? So the actual motto,
The slogan. There you go.
the slogan. Right. So the Panama Paper leak thing. You heard about this?
What Panama paper?
There
leak
was
thing?
I think it was a law firm based in Panama.
Oh yeah.
Leaked. Was it 13 million? Was that ridiculous? Or was it 1.5 million?
All of these people have stashed. Rich people have stashed
Yeah.
loads and loads and loads of loot.
I mean, I brought that, but that's not really what I wanted to talk about.
So have you got money there? Is that what you're telling us?
Oh, I've got millions in the bank. Could you not tell with
so
the
you get
mansion that we're
so it
living
won't
in?
be able to get at you.
That's why I'm a socialist. Anyway, right.
You've hidden that money there.
Yeah. Right, hang on. We've got a serious thing. We were watching because... Wow.
No, the good thing of life. Sorry, just keep on. I'll give it.
We were watching... There was a Jon Snow discussion on Channel 4 about the Panama leak. I had Diane Abbott. I had a Russian businessman, I don't know who it was. I had Yanis Varoufakis, the ex-finance minister. And I had a Tory, I can't remember his name. And all Diane Abbott and the Conservative could do was take point scoring at each other. They both seemed to agree that tax evasion was an issue, but none of them seemed to want to put the issues aside of being Labour and Conservative and just fix the issue. Would you be willing to work with other political parties in order to fix issues, or would you point score, basically? Because I think point scoring is a lot of politics, and I think it stops things from getting done.
It does.
Would you agree with that?
Point scoring, yeah, it takes up a lot of politicians' time, and it's also a huge turn off
Yeah.
to people who might be watching or might be vaguely interested in politics. And I think a lot of voters out there and non-voters are not interested in it because it looks as though that's all we ever do.
It looks like a playground sometimes.
It does. But in fact, if we actually show a bit of respect to one another, work together, sometimes we can actually get things done and
They
start
don't
to
seem to
change
agree.
things.
They could have easily went, right, here's the issue.
Yeah.
Let's spend a wee while working on a policy that could help.
And you don't think that the person who was chairing that was encouraging that
Jon Snow
kind of...
probably he
Yeah.
was sort of, although he kept bashing politicians in general by saying, but you politicians never sort the problems, and then in response to that, the point scored again. So they kind of proved his point. It seemed to be they agreed with each other, but all they could do was say, well, Labour done this and the Tories didn't. And then he would say, well, the Tories done this and Labour let that slide. And the only two people that were saying anything were the ex-finance minister and the Russian businessman. And it seemed to be a whole waste of time. Two of the biggest political parties in the UK, and they couldn't sort the differences aside for 5 minutes for
Yeah.
this debate. And that seems like a whole waste of time.
And
I
that,
hope
yeah.
that doesn't happen as much after the next election, because we're getting kind of fed up
Yeah,
in Scotland to seeing that sort of thing.
I know. I think I'm fed up with that as well. I am. It would be good to have something novel.
Aye.
But then maybe because that was a programme and a kind of strange entertainment, it might be dull if people come on that kind of thing, that sort of programme, and agree with one another. Say,
Maybe.
yes, maybe that's what we should do. And 10 minutes later they've agreed and that's it, all over and done with, and there's still about 20 minutes of the programme to fill. So you have to keep them arguing with one another.
That's true. Of course, I get myself involved in political debates in the same way my mum gets involved in Hollyoaks. I'm sort of sitting on my seat like, go yourself, big chief. Just shouting at the TV. Nobody can
Yes.
hear me, but I enjoy it, so who cares?
Indeed. And,
But I enjoy
and
it.
as a note to end on, I think that's a very wise
Perfect.
one.
Yes, Big Chief is
Big
the way
Chief.
to to end that. Perfect. You couldn't have been any more Kennewegian
Nah,
than you tried there, so that's
this is
perfect.
where I'm not running.
Anywhere or
Any-
anything or for
Is that a
anything.
fat joke, Kate? Are you insulting you, first of all?
Oh, well, you could. I thought you meant you're not running for election.
Right, so
This was an indication of your wisdom.
I think
And then
we'll end
you
here.
tell me that I'm insulting
That's
you.
it.
We'll end here. It's been nice having you on. Been a right laugh. We've had some politics talk.
It's been quite enjoyable.
I
Actually.
think
I
we'll
know.
stop here.
We're all surprised.
Yeah, and you've enjoyed your penguin. So
I ate only a bit of my penguin. That's my only regret.
That's it.
Okay. Crunch,
Right.
crunch, crunch, crunch.
we'll leave here. Goodbye.
Perfect. Thanks very much, people.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
That was a ridiculous.